Hi! Now, I'm going to take a break from the Terrible Tyrannid collection to work on a different project. Now, not too long ago, I got a Sylvaneth starter box. Now, starter box has never really been my thing because I don't really plan on playing the game. But this one caught my eye because it had some interesting things, and I really like the Sylvaneth tree people. The kind of combination of kind of like spirit ghostly things and then also kind of like wildwood tree ants is super fun in my opinion. And as somebody who works outside with plants, this kind of like nature side of things I really enjoy, and these guys just kind of hit home straight away. I love these guys, and I want to paint them up really well. Now, there are two different kinds of Sylvaneth paint jobs in my head. After giving it a good thorough research, there's kind of like your nature themed ones, and then there's like your crazy custom colors based solely on vibes, or often something as far away from green and brown as possible. Now, as somebody who does work outside, I genuinely think that I prefer this kind of like nature vibe to these nature models, despite, well, my paint jobs usually being on the kind of crazier side of things. I mean, literally, my last video is about turning Pokemon into Tyranids, or I guess the other way around, turning Tyranids into Pokemon. I really like that video. If you haven't seen it, you should probably watch it if you want to. Now, this was going to be a personal project. It quickly realized that a whole box of 10 miniatures is no small feat, and I kind of need to record it if I think I'm ever going to finish it. Therefore, Tree People, the series, hello. Now, I want my guys to reflect nature, and not the kind of crazy side of things, which means I've got to find a good, crazy nature kind of in between that hopefully should look good. Now, I'm going to sacrifice the smallest people in this box to see if I can find a nice enough looking color scheme that isn't like your typical naturey thing, but also looks nice, and not too crazy. Does that make sense? And just like I mentioned, I've already started this project. I've done 4 out of 5 of these guys with slightly varying color schemes, as you can see right here. Now, I quite like some of these, however, I've started, so I'll finish, if that makes sense. There's 5 guys, therefore I'm going to do 5 different color schemes, and I've got 1 more left to do. Now, this one is my attempt at kind of like that classic style Sylvaneth with green and brown wood that's been glazed a little bit with like a light brown, and then a bright green spirit, kind of as bright as I could get it. And then for the second one, I did kind of, I was aiming for like a glow-in-the-dark plastic style spirit, where along with kind of like dark wood with a slightly more aggressive glaze of a light brown over the top to give it kind of like a harsher contrast. I definitely think I overdid it with kind of like the contrast between the really light wood and the really dark wood. Don't think it quite makes sense, but I'm really happy with the way the spirit looks in this one. I think I prefer it. I think the kind of like glow in the dark material is kind of like nostalgic, even though I didn't quite hit it. And then for the third one, I kind of went further into kind of like maybe like straw kind of colors. I've gone for like a really bright green combined with yellow. My goal also was to kind of like make a yellow spirit, which can be really hard to do, especially because of like the different kinds of yellow and how that can go. It's kind of like a greeny yellow. I don't think it kind of works as well with the amount of yellowy green that's already in the wood. However, I really had fun with like his little loincloth. I'm really happy with how that looks. I just don't think that's kind of like the direction it goes in. And then the fourth one, the one that I just finished, I really like this guy. He has that really good contrast if the camera will focus. I went for like a proper vibrant banana yellow. It looks really cool, as well as kind of like then going for like reddy kind of dark woods. I think I mixed pink in with kind of like the grays to make kind of like that dappled color wood, along with like a little bit of glazing of, I think I used like a little bit of like a pinky kind of color, just to home in on that kind of like reddy kind of notes. And all four of these look really cool in my opinion, but I'm unsure of kind of like the direction that I want to do all of the models that I'm currently got, right? Because I'm making these 5, but these are gonna shape the direction of all of my tree people from this point onwards probably. So I have to ask the question of what do I do now? I need to come up with a color scheme for the 5th one, and I've been exploring kind of like the green into yellow, but I think it might be time to do the opposite and head in kind of like the bluey direction. Now, I've always struggled with glowy blue things, so hopefully glowy greeny blue things should go well. I'm not too sure though, because blue is always like a super strong pigment in everything, so it gets quite hard to work with. I'm worried it's going to be too strong, but I'm then going to pair that kind of like bluey glow stuff with kind of like reddy orangey kind of wood. Hopefully this should look quite visually interesting, with kind of like the bluey spirit and then the reddy wood. There should be like a lot of like color contrast between the two. So I can't believe it's been 7 minutes and I haven't even started painting, and so we're going to start with the wood. Now I'm going to do some speed paint blending. I'm going to make 2 very similar but like noticeably different colors on these little dishes, and then I'm going to dot them onto the wood kind of sporadically. This should make some like visual interest, as well as making it kind of just look more kind of like nature really. It's great for making kind of like inconsistent materials, so it's good for skin and it's good for wood. I'm not quite sure where else I would use it, although in theory you could use it anywhere. It just depends how close you make those individual colors. If you were to make them really simple, you could probably do it with things like Space Marines, kind of like, it could look really cool. I might have to try that, kind of like experiment, see if it looks worth doing, I guess. But yeah, we're going to be making 2 custom speed paint colors. One of them's going to be Familiar Pink Ancient Honey and Gravelord Grey, to make kind of like a dirty pinky brown. And then the other one will be Hardened Leather, Blood Red and Pallid Bone, to make kind of like a mahogany kind of reddy brown. Now I'm going to be using my patent pending 2-brush technique, by holding two brushes. Each of them's got the different kind of speed paint on. This helps me kind of just like dapple and easily switch between the 2 of them, without kind of making it as tedious as possible. It takes a little bit extra effort to do it like this, but it's honestly not that hard, and it makes this kind of technique go so much faster and easier. So yeah, it looks dumb, but it works, so I'm gonna keep doing it. As you can see, these colors are actually like quite similar, but you can still tell the difference between them, which yeah, makes it look just more interesting, more fun. Now I've left it to dry overnight, I'm gonna start working on the ghostly bits. Now, I don't really need the zenithal, I actually need it to be bright white, so I'm gonna have to put a couple of coats of just titanium white over the top of it. Now, unfortunately, I'm out of titanium white. I don't quite know how it happens, but I ran out. This is my first kind of acrylic paint that I've run out of. I will say that there's some in there. It's just because of the size of the bottle, like it's like really like thick and almost unusable. So I had to go and order more, which is partly why this video took 2 weeks to paint one model. Yeah, so I had to go buy more paint, and in order to get free shipping on one single paint, I got some more things. Yes, £80 to get free shippings on a £3 paint. But yeah, these are stuff that might show up in the future, little like spoilers or whatever. But yeah. And that's the one thing that I actually wanted to go buy. There we go. One of the things I got a while ago that I haven't actually converted over to is some flip caps for these monument hobbies, and honestly I should have converted them a while ago, because I'm not sure if you noticed in the background, you have to like dab off like a small amount of the material every time you kind of use a paint, and these flip caps should help prevent that. Yeah, I bought enough to convert everything, but because the paint often sticks in the top of these things, I'm almost like a sunk cost fallacy. Like I'd rather use the paint in the little nozzle than try and get it out, even though it would probably save me paint in the long run. But I'm going to do it with the new paint, so there we go. I can now tell the difference between my new and my old titanium white. So now that that major distraction is over, here he is now whited out. And I wasn't going to stop at this step, but I really like the way this looks with the white. I think maybe like an underrated Sylvaneth color scheme would be just white. Now obviously white is kind of like a super sketchy thing whenever it comes to painting miniatures, to be like, oh, it's white. It's a very difficult paint to do. However, like with this kind of reddy orange dark kind of wood, it kind of gives off like a snowy effect, and you could probably do some really cool snowy Sylvaneths. But that's not where this is going. I'm not gonna just be like, hey, it's done. We've barely done any painting at this point, so let's make it bluey green. The first step for making kind of like this ghostly color is to mix a small amount of fluorescent paints with some titanium white to make kind of like a good baseline. Now, I was always scared that I would put too much blue in, however it looks like I put a combination of too much blue and too much green in. Retroactively looking back at it, this is kind of the step where the kind of like spirit effect kind of went wrong. I really like this color, however it's just way too dark, especially for kind of like the method that I'm using right now. This needed to be much lighter, and I kind of realized that after this step in particular, because now I need to do kind of like a fluorescent wash over the top. I'm going to do this by mixing some of this fluorescent paint with a lot of speed paint medium to make a fluorescent speed paint. Now, normally I try my best to make this as thin as possible, however, I put it on and you can barely see it. So, yeah, this could have been double the strength. Maybe that would have helped. Maybe it's just the color underneath is too blue, therefore it's too dark, and then nothing will ever show up over the top of it. I'm not 100% certain, but it doesn't work. Right now at least, but the kind of like next step is to go back over with some titanium white to make a lot of like bright spots. This should help kind of make the glowy effect. Now, this could make for kind of like a stylized look. If I compare it to my yellow one, you can see like I used a super bright, vibrant yellow with a bright white over the top, and there's quite a difference between those two colors. Now, I'm hoping I have this similar effect with this guy here. However, I'm not sure the blue is going to blend as well with the white, simply by how much darker the kind of bluey green is in comparison to kind of just bold titanium white. I start by picking out like just individual details. It's really easy with the flag because they're embossed, but just kind of like the key details I think are gonna need kind of like a little bit of white over the top of them. Now, I'm not entirely sure kind of like the glowy effect has really landed on this one, but as much as I'm kind of like slamming on it, I do have to kind of say that I really like that color. If I had managed to like make this look as good as it could have been, like this right now is still like pretty good. It looks a little like a little stylized, a little sketchy, mostly because of how much the white stands out. If I had done like an intermediate step where I had made like a lighter color to then go over before I then did white, we could have some really nice blending. However, I did this guy slowly over the course of like one whole week. So all of that paint had been like fully dried up by this kind of point in time, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes. If I had done this all in one day, that would have been like a really easy to do step. And then like the final thing for this before we go on to like basing, the very last step is to do a little bit of glazing. Now I've got this kind of like Cheeto orange, and I really like it. It's a Citadel color. It works really well for glazing because of how well Citadel color paints thin down. And yeah, I'm just gonna kind of glaze the bits that matter. I've done that with all of the other ones in different varying glazes. Mostly just kind of like the tips of all of the ends of the woods, things like kneecaps and the feet. Yeah, I'll skip to that now, because glazing is really boring to watch. It's taken me till this moment to realize that I basically made a like copper colored color palette, right? We got like the verdigris spirit and then varying levels of dullness in the kind of like coppery colors. It really kind of highlights that when you add the orangey to the notes to make it look almost like polished in certain areas. But yeah, that's yeah, it wasn't my intention to make a copper colored yeah, no, I didn't think about this, but if I had, that would have been big brain. Instead, I just have a smooth brain, apparently. This is the base that I had already pre-made. Now you can tell that I had kind of painted this with a completely different kind of color palette in mind, and now I've got to kind of make it fit. It's one of those things where I can't help but notice that it's actually like, it's already got a shed ton of paint over it already. I can't help but feel like I'm going to lose a bunch of detail. I wasn't sure if I wanted to kind of like build on top of this one or just commit and say, oh, it's already kind of, you know, goopy. It's goopy already. And well, I just kind of decided to commit because, well, this video is already taking like way too long. And these are the three colors that I'm going to choose to make the base. I'm going to do like a pretty typical kind of like wet blend between three different colors. This is going to be like my ground tones. And then I'm also going to dry brush with like a green. And hopefully that should look really nice. Now, I find myself kind of gravitating to these kind of patchy blends. It's something I find super satisfying, as well as adding kind of like visual interest to these guys. And honestly, it just makes the whole painting experience quite fun. But it's kind of like, it keeps it involved. It's easier than you think to do, and sometimes you get really nice results. Kind of like this one. I'm actually super happy with how these guys end up turning out. As the bases, I think this is the most like well-themed base out of all of the ones that I've done so far. I mix up the colors a little bit just to kind of make it look a little bit more interesting. The kind of like rocky surface that he's going to be standing on now is kind of got that kind of yellowy brown to make him kind of stand out a little bit more. As well as I mixed in some ghostly green into the tips of the tree behind to kind of add, again, some more kind of like visual variety. Blending kind of a brown and also a super light colored green is more difficult than you might think. Although that already sounds quite difficult, so maybe you have like a good idea of how long it took to kind of like tease that into making it look slightly blended. It is a bit patchy, it isn't the best paint job, but I think I go over a second time just to make sure it looks okay. I'm doing a little bit of just like a light brown wash to kind of finish the base. I'm gonna put this pretty much over everything. I'm not gonna put it over the tree directly, but yeah, that'll be the final step. I lied! I forgot about the final step, which is grass tufts. Now, this is my first time using grass tufts. I haven't really had like an opportunity to use them, and I want to put more kind of round the rock to, I know, kind of like hide a lot of the paintwork that I've just done. But considering these guys are nature, it's probably like the best time to use grass tufts. Now, I had a lot of fun doing grass tufts. It is very kind of tedious work. These guys don't have like a lot of glue on them, so you gotta super glue them. And my paint my super glue is running low. I got a new set, but I'm trying my best to use this up as much as possible, and it becomes quite a tedious process when I'm trying to make sure I don't glue my fingertips together. I cut all the tufts up into little kind of like smaller sections. This should help kind of fill kind of not only those smaller bits, but it also, like, circular tufts aren't really that usable. So cutting them into small individual sections and then gluing them where they're needed just kind of makes them look more organic and fit better into the diorama kind of style base. Now, if this was just a flat base, maybe some just plain old grass tufts would be fine. And now I feel like I've said grass tufts enough for a lifetime, because I am stumbling over all of my words. Jeez. I'm gonna give these grass just a little bit of like a haircut. I don't really want kind of like that bally shape, so kind of angling it a little bit, also making sure that it doesn't really go over the edge. I would prefer if kind of like the diorama shape stayed inside of this little cylinder. It means that it's less likely to get knocked and pinched and pulled out of kind of the way it's going. And yeah, this is just kind of like shape it a little bit and make it look more unique. Make sure that it like doesn't like distract you, like one rogue hair being really annoying. And that's this guy done. I can't believe it's another 20+ minute video, and this is just one guy, although there has been plenty to talk about. Now, I'm super happy with how the final result is. I agree that a lot of stuff could have been different, but I feel like I've been quite hard on him throughout the entire video. Like, this guy still looks pretty good. I'm super happy with the wood in particular. The spirit-like effect doesn't quite have the glow that I would have wanted, and the flag I probably shouldn't have done as like the ghost theme. That's kind of my main takeaway from this. I don't think he's my favorite out of all 5 of them, but I still, as a collection of like 5 different colored miniatures, like, they all stand out for different reasons, and I think that's partly why I really like them. I'm really attached to like all of these different designs. I like them all for different reasons, and that's kind of like really difficult because I kind of wish I could paint my giant tree ant in all of these colors to see what the giant tree ant would look like. Unfortunately, that would cost literally hundreds of pounds and would be months and months worth of work. So I only really have one tree ant that I can paint in one of these color styles. So if you prefer one of these, if you have an opinion as to which one you prefer, please let me know. And maybe if there's a dissenting opinion amongst viewers that one of these is particularly better than the other, I'll do that one over it. Personally, I think I'm going to go with Flute Guy. I really like the bright yellow. I think that's going to be really cool and unique. But yeah, no, if you have an opinion, please let me know. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to stick around. I plan on doing more of these, so if you're interested in this kind of content, yeah, I'll be here making videos. I'm currently averaging about 3 videos a week. Yeah, the goal is every week, but 3 videos a week isn't that bad, all things considered. Anyway, peace.